It is roughly 4,500 years ago in the Sumerian city of Nippur. There are no dating apps, no perfume ads, and no polite way to ask whether the person leaning toward you has cleaned their teeth with anything stronger than a twig. Still, two faces move closer. Their lips meet. A kiss. Was it romance, ritual, desire, or simply the ancient version of, I guess this is happening now? More importantly, when did ancient humans first kiss? Nobody invented kissing on a specific afternoon and then filed a patent. Humans were probably doing it long before writing existed. History can only show us the earliest kiss someone bothered to record. And luckily, ancient scribes wrote down almost everything, including taxes, gods behaving badly, and people getting extremely close. Begin in Mesopotamia, where clay tablets functioned as books, receipts, legal documents, and occasionally the world's oldest relationship evidence. A Sumerian myth about the grain goddess Ezenin, preserved in texts dating to roughly 2500 BCC, contains one of the earliest known written references to romantic or sexual kissing. The Barton cylinder, made around 2350 BCE, describes divine intercourse followed by kissing, because apparently even gods needed an awkward cuddle afterward. Around 1800 BCE, an old Babylonian clay model showed a nude couple embracing face-to-face, giving archaeologists something more visual than a damaged line of cuneiform. In Mesopotamian society, a kiss could express desire, family affection, loyalty, or submission, depending on the people involved. Kissing a lover was intimate. Kissing the feet of a ruler was career management. Same mouth. Very different meaning. The important point is that kissing was already familiar enough to appear in myths, art, letters, and social customs. Mesopotamians did not treat it like a strange new invention. They treated it like people do now, meaningful, complicated, and occasionally a terrible decision. Next comes ancient India, where the evidence begins with a linguistic mystery and ends with what is basically a user manual. The oldest layers of the Rigveda were composed around 1500 BC in northwestern India. One passage uses the Sanskrit verb gra, meaning to smell or smell at, while describing close contact involving the mouth, nose, and breath. Some scholars interpret this as a kiss-like gesture. Others think it may simply describe sniffing or touching faces. So no, we cannot confidently say that Vedic poets invented making out. What we can say is that breath and facial contact already carried intimate meaning. By roughly the 3rd century CE, the evidence becomes much less shy. Vatsyayana's Kāmasūtra describes different kinds of kisses, when they should happen, and what each one communicates. Vatsyayana was the ancient equivalent of that friend who goes on one decent date and immediately starts teaching a masterclass. In his text, kissing could be hesitant, playful, passionate, or strategic. It became a language of its own, allowing two people to communicate desire before either of them had to say something embarrassing. Ancient India did not give us the first kiss, but it did give the kiss categories, instructions, and probably performance anxiety. Then we reach Rome, a civilization that never met a private emotion it could not turn into poetry, gossip, law, or public drama. Around 55 BCE, the poet Catullus wrote his famous 5th poem to Lesbia, demanding first 1,000 kisses, then 100, then another 1,000, until the numbers became impossible to track. Romantic, certainly. Financially auditable, absolutely not. Several decades later, between about 1 BCE and 2 CE, Ovid wrote the Ars Amatoria, presenting courtship as a skill that could be taught. Ovid was confident, theatrical, and often gave advice that sounds less like romance and more like a man who should not be allowed to run a dating podcast. Was some of his advice terrible by modern standards? Yes, it was. But his writing proves that Romans saw kissing as a recognizable step in courtship. A kiss could begin an affair, confirm affection, create jealousy, or become evidence that one person cared more than the other. In 1st century Roman culture, different Latin terms could distinguish a polite social kiss from a more passionate one. Rome did not invent kissing. It simply gave it vocabulary, drama, and unnecessary paperwork. Here's the modern contrast. Humans were writing about romantic kisses more than 4,000 years before nylon-bristled toothbrushes appeared in 1938. Our ancestors mastered intimacy long before reliably fresh breath. Brave people, every one of them. So when did ancient humans first kiss? The earliest surviving written evidence currently points to Mesopotamia around 2500 BCE, but kissing itself is almost certainly far older. A kiss leaves no stone tool, no skeleton, and usually no archaeological trace, which is probably for the best. It survives only when someone records it in clay, poetry, art, or a very detailed relationship guide. Across Mesopotamia, India, and Rome, the gesture changed meaning but kept doing the same human work, creating closeness, showing loyalty, expressing desire, and turning an invisible emotion into something another person could feel. The oldest kiss we know was not humanity's first. It was simply the first one history failed to delete. The next time you kiss someone, remember that you are continuing a tradition older than empires. And please honor your ancestors by brushing your teeth first.